Giving up after 10 years feels like letting her down.
Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started.
Giving up after 10 years feels like letting her down. So many people in the sub seem so much stronger than myself. My wife, 28, and I, 28, were high school sweethearts. It still feels like this is just a story about us. We have 2 kids, 4 male and 5 female. We have been together for 11 years and married 5. We dated in high school for over a year before we moved in together. We had fantasized about it together as kids do. We didn't know what we were getting into. I would move heaven and earth for this girl. She was everything I ever wanted. It was a real love, and I didn't know what to do with it. In the first few months of our relationship, 16 years old, she cheated with one of her friends. We were in a fight. Even at that age, I know how young and dumb we were. It struck me as a childish mistake. We reconciled. I should have just left. But I don't blame myself for not knowing better. We had dreams together that we couldn't afford when we left high school. Tried to go to college but couldn't work full shift and classes full time, so we failed. We gotta keep the debt. We never had enough money, but it never seemed to bother us. We could still save up a few $100s for a couple weekend trips a year. She was dishonest about everything. Her not wanting to tell me the smallest thing because she was insecure about how others viewed her and led to many a long night. Running the worst through my mind just to find out she didn't want me to know she smoked weed alone. There was thousands of instances like this, together for 3,700 days, and not a day went by that I didn't know she was hiding something. It was always revealed to be something stupid. When we were 18, she had an emotional affair with a co-worker. I caught her, told her to end it, and we're reconciled. Again in my head, we are just dumb kids. The cheating stopped when my hypervigilance began. Still, there was constant deceit that made it impossible to trust her, but I stayed. We are growing. I know I have been changing. She must be too. Between then and her turning 22, life was mundane. We paid the bills, tried to save, took some trips, enjoyed each other's company, but even in this stage, communication was breaking down. I had no idea how traumatized I was by her past mistakes. I lost interest in keeping tabs on her. I don't know what happened in this period, but she did seem to be more invested in the relationship than before. It may have been the best time we had together, but I can't remember it because of the constant fear I was in. We had our kids back to back at 22 and 23 years old. I told her it wasn't a good idea. I already felt so tired. We were too young. I don't know shit about kids. She couldn't bring herself to not keep it. I love this woman. I'm not going to try to talk her into an abortion. She would never forgive me. My daughter was born and she was/is incredible. Rinse and repeat the next year with my amazing son. She impressed the hell out of me. She worked the whole time, never seemed to even struggle. I found it hard to help her because she was so good at it. I fell in love with her all over again those years. She was awesome. Our kids slept between us for the next 4 years. Intimacy was impossible. We found time to have sex fairly regularly, but it became planned, not the same. We were always a mom and dad. The people we were had slowly started to fade out of memory, but the fear never did. We discussed moving the kids, but her postpartum was difficult and I didn't want to cause her pain. When my son was 3, I finally got them into their own room. By that time, it was too late. We went through the motions, but I couldn't get her to connect with me like we used to. Eventually, I gave up too. Communication has been at an all time low these last 2 years. Most of the time, not even fighting, sharing generalities about our lives, talking about the kids, laughing together was the best part of these times. Even that started to fade. Since January, she has been distancing herself even more. I noticed, but I was suffering an extreme mental toll and couldn't save us this time. I would come out from bed after having nightmares and panic attacks related to a work accident, begging her to come to bed. This lasted for a month before I gave up and suffered alone. I cried myself asleep most of those nights. January was when she started an emotional affair that she would allow to consume her and bring us down. When she told me 3 months ago she wanted to leave, I was planning to talk about recommitting. I had admitted to her all my insecurities and failings, admitted how I didn't trust her for so long, and that caused me to become cold. I showed her time and time again that things could be amazing. We were so dumped for so long. Look how easy it can be. At this point, she was already sleeping with him. I told her when she left, just tell me when you start something new. It will hurt, but it beats sitting her hoping. She promised she would, but she had already been involved with someone else for months. I had to deal with her living in my home during this time, leaving our house to see him, but it wasn't my business anymore. Eventually, I got sick of the obvious deceit plastered on her face, and I did something I haven't done in 8 years. I looked through everything she owns. She listened to me begging her to come to bed. She stayed in the living room so she could text her 21-year-old manager all night while I contemplated suicide alone. She knew. I know I wasn't perfect. I know I gave in to the fear and trauma. I know it changed me into a bad partner. But I also know that it wasn't me. I know it was brought on by her actions and failure to make up for them. But I still can't shake the feeling that I let her down. Maybe we both let each other down, but I don't think I deserved this.